ఉండు ఉండు, నేను తనకి ఆపమని చెప్పిన, మీరు రాలేదని. మీరు మిమ్మల్ని యాడ్ చేయమంట. సుదర్శన్ రెడ్డి సార్కి కూడా ఒక్కసారి కాల్ చేయరా ప్లీజ్. Kaushal, you are here. I'm able to see. Hello, Kaushal. Hello. Hello. Yeah. Hello, Veda. Hello, Veda. Can you let sir in? Can you let sir in first? Veda, can you please let sir in?
Sir is not there, ma'am. I'm just checking that one only.
Can we invite him? Can we invite him? How?
Yes,
How?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, we can.
His mail ID? Through his mail ID, can I invite him?
Yes, ma'am. You can invite, ma'am.
Okay, 1 second. What is this?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Veda.
Ha, ma'am.
Can you let sir in? Can you let sir in first? Veda,
Sir is not there, ma'am, here in the
can you
list.
please let sir in?
Sir is not there, ma'am, in the list. In the waiting room, sir is not there.
Can we invite him?
Yes, ma'am, we can invite.
How? How?
I do one thing, ma'am.
His mail ID? Through his mail ID, can I invite him?
Yes, ma'am, you can invite, ma'am, through his mail ID.
Okay, 1 second. What is this?
Sir is not there, ma'am, here in the list. Sir is not there, ma'am, in the list. The waiting room, sir, is not there. Yes, ma'am, we can invite. I do one thing, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, you can invite, ma'am, through his mail ID.
A very pleasant morning to all. I think I'm audible. A very pleasant morning to everyone here. I welcome our principal, Dr. Achyuta, our secretary, Professor Sudarshan Reddy sir, our secretary, HMVS, Professor Mutyam Reddy sir, and our speaker of the session, Kaushal Kurpati. I welcome all the participants to today's international webinar on artificial intelligence applications and its trends in transforming business. Our speaker, Kaushal Kurapati, is a group vice president. Is a group vice president of products within our Oracle's marketing cloud division. He oversees a broad product portfolio that includes social listening, real-time analysis, and testing the personalization products. Kaushal has vast experience in technology and product management, spanning areas such as web search, personalization, search, advertising, small business, and e-commerce. Most recently, he was vice president of product management at MasterCard Building, a platform to deliver targeted ads or personalized card links offers on past user transaction behavior. Prior to that, he spent 6+ years at Yahoo in its search and small business units. Earlier in his career, he developed recommended systems for TV embedded machine learning based personalization algorithms into consumer setup boxes while at Philips Electronics Research in New York. Kaushal is an active participant in hackathons and is a 3-time winner at the MasterCard, including a grand global prize there a couple of years ago. He holds 24 patents issued to date and 50+ filed so far in the areas of personalization, payments, and search ranking. He is also a winner of the Yahoo Superstar Award, a Founders Award at Yahoo, given to select few worldwide. He is a recipient of Distinguished Alumni Award from the University of Delaware. Kaushal holds an MBA from New York Stern School of Business, along with master's degree in computer science and mechanical engineer from University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and University of Delaware, respectively. He is originally an aerospace engineer from University of Delaware, University of Delaware. He is originally an aerospace engineer from IIT Madras in India. Thank you so much, Kaushal, to accept our invite for the webinar. Indeed, it will be fruitful for our participants. Over to Kaushal Kurapati.
Thank you. Thank you, Vamshi. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead,
Okay.
Kaushal.
All right. So first of all, apologies for the delay and the snafus. Just so it happens, as you have about 100+ people waiting, the internet goes down. So you know, such is the way. But I'm glad I'm able to make it here. And first of all, it's a profound thanks to Vamshi and to Reddy College and the faculty there for inviting me. And it's a great honor. I have a personal connection, I suppose I should say. My mother was an alumni of Reddy College back in 1960s, and so many family members have studied there as well over the years. So it's a great privilege to be sharing some thoughts today. So let me share my screen. Can you see it? Is it coming across okay? All right. Um, so I'll start off. So this is it's a broad talk. It's not a technical talk by any means. It's more of what AI is doing in various fields. I guess I'll use the term AI very broadly. So uh, and especially focused on a little bit on aspects of business which are advertising and marketing, I would say. And um, we'll also look at various interesting examples of how AI is being applied in various places. So first up, I will. This is a small sort of a. If it was a live audience, it would have been better because there's a small sort of a quiz at the first, right? If you look at the statement, um, do you think that this was written by a machine or it was written by a human being? First of all, right? I know it's hard for you to respond for folks on the phone, but essentially it was written by a machine, right? It looks like it's a simple report in a newspaper or a standard report that's issued, but it was basically written by a machine, essentially, right? Now, another example, this is a poem. When I, in my dreams, behold thy fairest shade, and so on and so forth. Was it written by a machine or a human being? Uh, and give you a couple of seconds to think about it. It was actually written by a combination of a human and a machine. So the human being writes off the first sentence, and actually a machine trained on Shakespeare and trained on many other poetry, forms of poetry, completes it. Right. So it's a fascinating thing that a machine is able to complete and do poetry. Now the last one. So this is a Apple's holiday earnings report from 2014. And was it written by a machine or a human? Right? I think people can take a guess. This is actually written by a human being. So it's sometimes very hard to tell, right? But it turns out, and I'll talk about it later in the talk, these kind of reports are very standard reports these days. They are what you would call have a particular pro forma. They have a format. So they are written by predominantly software, predominantly machine generated. This one turns out it's from 2014, so it was written by human at that point, but no longer. They are being written by machines actually. So that brings us to, first of all, before we jump into the the future of AI, let's take a flashback a little bit, right? And like I said, I'll focus a little bit on advertising and marketing aspects of business. It's there are many other aspects of business, of course, but we'll specifically focus on that because it's my specialty in a way. So marketing, if you look back, right, marketing has been around for a long time. It really, you can say that marketing and advertising has been there for as long as human beings have been there, and as long as human beings have been producing products, or it is have been championing any ideas. It could be an idea in religion, it could be an idea in philosophy. A lot of them involve marketing techniques, which today we recognize as marketing or advertising, but they might not have been called that in the past, right? So fundamentally, marketing has been there for a long time. And as an example, this is an example of a cuneiform tablet that was dug up not too long ago, but it's a tablet that's 4,000 years old, right? So this is a script that's no longer in existence, obviously. This is a script that was deciphered by archaeologists and various historians. And apparently this is a complaint, a customer complaint. Back 4,000 years ago, someone is complaining that they did not get a proper quality of stone or quality of stone, I think, and they sent their messenger to deliver the complaint and essentially get a refund. And so on goes the complaint. So customer service was important back then, and it's important even now, right? So It's marketing and customer service and customer relationships have been important all throughout history. And this is a fascinating sort of example of something that's very old. Now, marketing definitely has evolved over a period of time, and advertising, I would say also, right? On the left is, of course, a printing machine, printing press, which is an older type of printing press, not one of the modern ones. But basically to show that ever since print came into being, since the Gutenberg press, printing press in 1500s, and later the explosion of book and print and now magazines and newspapers in the past 100 years, advertising and marketing has basically been that, all right? And then when radio came along, and a lot of you who are much younger probably don't even know what this is unless you've been to your grandparents' house and you saw one such a device there. So that's a radio for anybody who's the smartphone generation. And that dominated actually advertising back in 1920s, 1930s. Radio was a big revelation because it was the first kind of broadcast medium, right, after print. So a lot of advertising dollars, and basically in those times in the United States, most likely, flowed there. And actually radio holds a pretty good chunk of marketing mix even today, about 5 to 6%, at least in the US. Now, then came along TV. Obviously, TV captured the imagination of everybody. And that is a TV, by the way, for anybody, again, who's slightly younger. TVs used to look like that. So TV commands a significant portion of our advertising money anywhere. Then for a long time, it remained that way, right? Radio, TV, basically print dominated. And then came along the internet. And you could say digital advertising, search, display advertising took over from there, right? For a long time, or maybe a decade actually, which is long in internet years, it remained that way. Then it went on to with the advent of the smartphone, I would say maybe in the introduction of Apple, pretty much iPhone in 2007, most likely, you could say, and also the development of social media, it has shifted significantly the landscape again in advertising. So the nature of advertising, marketing, and business has kind of remained same, but the forms and the channels through which it has reached the masses has evolved. Now, the goal of marketing and advertising has always remained same. It is still the same as what it was like even maybe 1,000 years ago. Get the right message across to the right person at the right time. And so it's all about targeting the right message and how you reach the masses with that message, whether it was a religious message in the olden days or a philosophical message, or maybe someone selling a product. I think the concept is still the same. Now, let's take a brief look at how advertising spend is in the US versus India. The trends are somewhat similar, but also there are significant differences. In the US, don't pay attention to the amount of money that's there in the US versus India, but this is just the percentage, right? Now, in the US, digital, which encompasses essentially search, display, social media, all kinds of advertising, has surpassed TV about 2-3 years ago, right? That is itself an earth-shattering moment in advertising, I would say, because TV has dominated the industry for a long time, right? Now, digital, all of digital, which includes, again, social and everything, mobile also, is about 50% of the advertising pie, and it's only going to grow, right? TV will likely remain at, maybe 20% or so, perhaps. Radio, surprisingly, has held very steady at 6%, and newspapers and magazines basically took the brunt of it, and they're down to 10%, basically, right? They used to be 30% even maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. In India, it's very different. India, the advertising mix is something like print actually used to dominate even a few years ago, more than even TV or rivaling TV. Now it's gone down, but it's still a very big percentage, right? India print is in India is one of the only places, I would say, where print is dominates, not in most other places in the world. Digital is growing. It was 5-6% even a few years ago, I remember, but it's grown up to 20%, and I believe it'll grow obviously much more and eat into these two buckets, print and TV. So that's kind of the landscape. Now let's step in away from marketing a little bit and look at artificial intelligence itself, the history of it a little bit, and applications in various areas, right? Then we'll put the two together. We'll put marketing and artificial intelligence together and see what's going on over there. The origins of AI all the way go back to the origins of computing. Computers came about in a big way in late 1940s. World War II was a big revelation, and right at the time when Alan Turing was there and during World War II and so on, he was also interested in artificial intelligence actually. So going back to 1950s, in the mid 1950s, they coined the term artificial intelligence at Dartmouth College, and essentially it has remained in the public consciousness since then, or at least in the scientific consciousness, I would say. But also in 1960s, there were films made which depicted significant advances in AI or anticipated as science fiction. 2001 Space Odyssey, if anyone has seen it, Stanley Kubrick's film, Arthur C. Clarke's science fiction, depicts a computer which in 2001, at that time, 40 years into the future, they imagined it to be essentially as intelligent as a human being. And of course, it's nowhere near that, but they imagined it that way. So AI has been in the consciousness in popular media for a long, long time. It's not a new thing. It's only becoming mainstream now because I think there is a lot more data that's available. There is a tremendous amount of data that's available now, consumer data, business data, all kinds of data. And in fact, I think there's a popular businessman in India who said data is the new oil, right? So data is important, clearly. Cheap computing power. I think computing power back in, again, if you go to 50s, 60s, 70s, it was expensive, right? PCs were not, PCs didn't come until 1970s, and people did not start having computers in homes and everything until even 1990s, I would say. Now people have multiple computers, so to speak, in their pocket. You have a smartphone which is more powerful than the computer that sent man to the moon. So the computing power has become cheap and ubiquitous, right? The third thing I would say that is driving the mainstream nature of AI is the algorithms themselves, which were at one point you needed a PhD in computer science or a PhD in machine learning specifically to write the code, write the algorithms. Those have become mainstream now. So they have basically, there are libraries of algorithms which are available, which you, not even you, I mean, basically a high schooler can take them off the shelf and just apply them as is. So data, computing power, algorithms, all of them together means that now you can put an AI solution into a smartphone, which was not even imaginable 10 years ago, right? So that's why there is so much hype today, so much interest, so much explosion of applications of AI in various fields. Now let's look at some of them, right? AI-based systems, they're saying now, are at par with doctors who are board certified doctors, and they are able to detect breast cancer, skin cancer, and many other diseases just as accurately as doctors, I believe. Now, there is also just a bit of caution there. That doesn't mean that your own doctor, when you go to the office, a doctor's office, is using an AI system to tell you whether you have something or not. It will get there. I believe strongly that it will get there, but it's not there yet. In the lab, when they test on data that's available from patients, histories, and so on, they seem to be performing just as accurately. But there is still something that computers can't do, and we'll get to that. So you can imagine a doctor with basically a smartphone in hand and checking someone's the quality of their eyes in this picture, and it would democratize, I think, the medicine access to billions of people across the world, right? And because most people have smartphones these days, they've become cheap. They have connectivity, especially in places like India, where data is one of the cheapest. India's got one of the cheapest data rates in the world. 1 gigabyte of data costs about a tenth of a dollar in India, whereas it costs about $9 to $10 rest of in America or rest of the world. So it democratizes when you put a medical application in a smartphone with the power of AI in it. It really democratizes access to healthcare, and it could revolutionize societies and their access to better health and better life. In fact, there's a nice project called Human Diagnosis Project. You can check, and they are collecting the expertise, patient case histories and expertise of thousands of doctors from around the world, and assembling it into an intelligent system so that you can access through a system and put that expertise in the hands of a doctor who may not be as aware of the latest developments in the science of medicine. So that's the power that search and computers and now let's look at chess. Chess is something that's been in the, again, public consciousness quite a bit. Back in 96 itself, 1996, Garry Kasparov was beaten by IBM's Deep Blue computer. And since then, in fact, if you look at this chess rating, computers have been better than humans for years now, for about close to 15 years. The best computers that play chess are much better than the best humans from a rating perspective, right? And in fact, there are algorithms now, which in fact, Google showed it, I think, recently, that they had a deep learning algorithm, which they trained with chess. It learned chess basically in a single day, and it could play as well as a grandmaster. So it is quite amazing, the computing power and how much a computer can learn. And that's because it's chess, actually. It turns out some other problems are much harder for computers to learn, and we'll come to that. Machine translation is also a fascinating area. Microsoft researchers, I think, have shown recently that Chinese news translation can be done in real time into English flawlessly, right? So a lot of YouTube, if all of you are used to YouTube, I'm sure, you can see YouTube generate captions on videos on the fly, and that's using just machine translation. It's not even using human beings translating it, right? And of course, it makes a lot of errors. Those can be obvious, and it's applicable only to some languages. It's not as good in Indian languages. I've tried it myself. But also, there's a problem with in translation too. So this is a funny story. This is a Palestinian guy whose episode became popular a few years ago. He wrote on his social media post, he posted this picture one day, and he wrote this term. I don't know how to say it. I think it's Arabic. But anyway, he wrote this term, and it turns out it's good morning or something like that. It's just a benign term, right? And Israeli security forces, who monitor these communications and social media quite a bit across the border, especially in Palestine for them, their software misinterpreted this term, and the Israeli security forces came and picked this guy up, saying, okay, because they interpreted it as attack them, right? Now, poor guy, I mean, this guy could have had a much worse day and life if they believed that. But luckily for them, someone who knew Arabic later on translated and said, no, that just means it's good morning. So they let him go. But it's a very fundamental example of how computers could get things wrong, and it could lead to disastrous consequences if that were to happen. I tried out in a popular, I won't say which one, but I tried out in a popular translation, just a simple English term into Hindi, right? So you could say a term, if a sentence like, I would like to ask you out on a date. Let's say a boy is asking a girl out, right? In Hindi, it translates it literally as "मैं आपको एक तारीख से पूछना चाहता हूँ." So it clearly is a literal translation. It's not interpreting the meaning. It's not a semantic translation. So clearly it can get it wrong. So computers, while the advances they've made is phenomenal, and AI has made phenomenal leaps and strides, it could get thrown off by very simple things also. In the first part of when we opened the talk, we saw that some of the news reports, for instance, financial news reports, are actually written by an automated software called Wordsmith these days. AP, Associated Press, uses that to produce up to 3,000 financial reports a quarter. And they do it just automatically, meaning it just churns it out. It's the same format. If it's a US financial report, then it follows a particular format. If it's other countries, they might change it based on the country and the currency and the language that's there. But it's basically written by a bot. It's not written by a human being at all, right? And the predictions are that most of the news articles in about a year or so will be essentially be written by bots. And what this means is, does it mean that journalists are out of business? I don't think so. I think mostly that journalists of the type who are perhaps investigative journalists will be in business, or deep analysis, they will be doing those sorts of things, and not the routine news articles, right? As an example. So they would be doing some thought pieces, opinion pieces, more deeper analysis, rather than simple reporting of financial reports or news of that nature, which is very much easier to be written by a software. There are lots of examples of people who are trying to write fiction through AI. This is actually a guy who's a researcher in University of California, Berkeley here, not too far from where we live. He writes a sentence like, "The bison are gathered around the canyon." And he has a software which is trained on many different novels, basically popular novels. It has learned patterns from that. It completes the sentence as "by the bare sky," which is not a bad way to complete that sentence at all. And that's completely generated by the machine. Now, he writes another sentence, and it produces another phrase between the main range and the city to complete that second sentence. That feels a bit weird because it's not exactly what maybe a human being would have written after that. And for whatever reason, the algorithm came up with it. So not everything that the computer or AI produces is good or going to be good, right? And then, the last one is an example of actually a fictional Harry Potter chapter written by completely an algorithm. It was trained on all the Harry Potter novels, right? And by J.K. Rowling, and it comes up with a paragraph. And you can interpret, if you're a Harry Potter fan, as to how that reads. It does read a bit strange, to be mild, but that's what the computer came up with. So there is a lot of interesting usage of not just routine writing, but also AI is beginning to write sort of fiction, if you will, right? And trying and getting into the creative side of things. And this is where we'll connect it up with the advertising side of the business, where creativity is a big deal, right? Computers need to be creative, or rather human beings think we are creative, and are computers creative is a big question. It's a philosophical question as well, but it's a more practical question too. Self-driving cars are becoming a big rage, definitely in California here, but also in many parts of the world. And some researchers tried to trick self-driving cars, because they have a vision component, to see if this is something that they would recognize. And it turns out the software did not recognize it at all. It did not recognize this as a stop sign, which is a very common sign in the US, and you are supposed to stop there. And it misinterpreted it. It misinterpreted it as speed limit 45, which would be a disaster if it were to follow those instructions and drive on the road. So again, while there are impressive advances made, it is also interesting to see where the algorithms fall short and where a human being would never make a mistake of that sort. And simple changes to the stop sign basically throw off the software. Last but not the least, I think there is a lot of bias that is there in algorithms, right? You might be thinking, why would a computer be biased, right? I mean, what is it's a computer, it's objective, but it turns out the computer is getting trained by algorithms and by data being provided by human beings, right? So there are numerous instances of ads that are targeted on the internet based on your gender. So traditionally and unfortunately, women have been paid less in the same role than a man, and that's true in many companies, many organizations across the world. Even now, even though they're doing the exact same job, they're getting paid less. And the advertising systems also, if they thought that someone who's typing in was a woman, like in a search engine, they would show ads basically which were for lower paying jobs than if a man would type the search query, right? So there's a natural bias that's included in there. Similarly, in voice recognition, if voice recognition is being built for a particular language, which is English, or a particular accent, an American accent, or a British accent, or an Australian accent, then certain other accents and certain other languages are left out. And that would introduce a natural bias. Essentially, some languages are ignored or just left out because there's not enough of a market for it, right? And there's a natural bias. And similarly, in criminal justice, actually, in the US, there is now an algorithm which actually decides which prisoners get parole based pretty much on their history. And their history does include their race as well, what race they belong to. And there is a lot of bias that gets introduced as a result of that. So we have to be very careful when someone says that we're using algorithms. It doesn't mean that they don't have bias. It just means that the bias has shifted into a systematic way, in fact, in an algorithmic way, which is even more dangerous now because you think that there's no bias there, but there is a lot of bias. Now, last act, we'll come to the final part of the presentation, which is about how marketing is transforming, right? And we've seen the history of marketing and how the spends are evolving and the channels are changing. We've seen the history, a little bit of AI and its various myriad applications. Now, when you put the two together, business has to be changing because these two are coming together, right? And that's exactly what's happening. The first one I would say is, even before we get into the AI part of it, like we said, the ubiquity of data. Today, we all carry in our homes or in our pockets computers, essentially, right? Which are far more powerful than ever before. But also, not only that, we have multiple phones, multiple iPads or tablets or computers. We have devices of various sorts in the home which are connecting to the internet. And which means eventually an average home might have dozens of devices which are basically generating data. So you as a human being are basically a walking, talking data machine, essentially. You're generating a lot of data, and all of that data is now a marketer or an advertiser or a business wants to use it because they can reach you better, because if they know you better, they can target you better. That's as simple as that. Marketers are also changing as a result of it because there's a lot more data. They're paying more attention to not just their brand affinity or the brand value of it, but they're also having revenue goals these days, and their role in companies is changing significantly. So they're paying more attention to customer service, they're paying more attention to user experience, all of that, but driven by data. So data is really fundamental in how a business is operating and how advertising and marketing are operating, essentially. we've all seen examples of this kind of a recommendations. If you've used Amazon, or if you've used Flipkart in India, or if you've used Netflix, or even Hotstar, or YouTube, of course, right? Basically, they're following you. You've experienced already advertising of some sort, because and not only advertising, but AI-based advertising. Essentially, they're saying, since you did this, it could be watched a video, it could be visited this website, or searched, or browsed, or opened an email, clicked a message in what's in a SMS, or you, because you bought something, because you liked something on social media, or you reacted to something. And all of these basically activities, any of these activities are generating data, basically. Then the marketer wants to know what you will likely do next, right? So if you did this in the past, they were interested in finding out what you will do next. Because if you bought a ticket to a certain vacation, they want to anticipate what likely service you will need next. Maybe you'll need travel insurance. Maybe you'll need health insurance. Maybe you'll need a medical checkup. Maybe you'll buy some luggage. Maybe you will buy a new camera. Maybe you will buy new dresses. So they would like to know that better, because they can then target you with the right ads, right? That is where marketing and that is the fundamental business model that it's come to. And all of that is entirely based on essentially automated systems, because you've got data and you've got algorithms that you can apply on that data, and you can predict what a consumer or a customer will do. And companies who do this very well, all of this entire chain, meaning you can capture the data of consumers and you will be able to react well, they are the ones who will come out as leaders in the market. There is a reason why Amazon is basically the top retailer on the web, uh, right? And there is a reason why Netflix is the top streaming service on the internet, and there's a reason why YouTube is top as well. They know how to do this targeting extremely well. Now, there are many areas of AI which are many areas of marketing or advertising, I use those terms interchangeably, which are already being impacted by data and some form of algorithm, right? It's not being done by human being anymore. Like we just talked about, quantifying consumer behavior, your behavior of what you're buying, where you're eating, where you're traveling to, and so on and so forth. And they will do segmentation of that. And this has been existing for a long time. Segmentation is not something that's new. But what's new is predicting someone's next journey. What is new is targeting the right time with the right message, because you can send the right message to someone into their pocket because the smartphone exists. You can personalize the content for them. You can do all kinds of sentiment analysis potentially on their social media posts. All of these kind of capabilities, some of these at least, did not exist in the past. And those are all new, essentially. So it's you can definitely say that marketing and advertising are, most of the activities are changing significantly because of data and because of the algorithms that are being applied on that data. Now, that said, emotion plays a big part in our decisions, consumer decisions. We are attracted to brands, we are attracted to certain films, or a particular hero or a heroine or whoever it is, because there's an emotional connection. It turns out, because of your emotional connection, you could be 8 times more loyal to a particular brand than if you did not have an emotional connection. Studies have shown this, right? And that's why a lot of the advertising on television really is about the emotional connection, rather than just mentioning the product functionality, because they want to connect to you at an emotional level. That is the key, right? But can you quantify emotion though? That is what is interesting. And there are some companies which are going after that. because what is interesting is there are companies which do sentiment analysis. They're also doing facial analysis. So Disney is a great example. Disney is pretty sophisticated when it comes to marketing. They're probably one of the best marketing machines anywhere in any kind of industry, not just entertainment, right? And whether you know it or not, apparently Disney has started trying out this system where when movie theaters, I mean, people are going to the movies and movie theaters, and they show a trailer there of an upcoming movie. uh, they had a system, and they were piloting it. They had a system which looked at the emotions of or people's facial reactions as the trailer was getting shown. And then what they did was they looked at what content was being shown in that particular moment, whether it's an action scene or whether it's a gory scene or whether it's a romantic scene or whatever it is in the trailer, and they corresponded it to the emotional measurements that they took of people's faces when they were watching that trailer. And what they were essentially assessing is how the audience, whether it's a young person, whether it's a teenager, whether it's an older person, whether it's a middle-aged person, how, or a man or a woman, how are they reacting to what's being shown on the screen? And they are trying to see how to market their film to which audience. In terms of the data that companies are after to essentially target customers and gain a competitive edge. Now, will AI replace creativity in marketing, right? This is something that Amul came out, in fact, last week, I think, right? It's a very topical, Amul is one of my favorite brands because, of course, they make great products, but also because of these interesting cartoons that they have been producing for decades. And this is such a topical, tagline: co-video conferencing and make your taste buds zoom. And this is the creativity that, obviously someone at Amul is coming up with. They come up with it every day, in fact, right? And this is something an algorithm would never have come up with. That's for sure. And that is not happening anytime soon. And I think we can take, probably as human beings, comfort in that systems are not at that level. But there are many other aspects of, whom do you target this ad to, for instance, potentially, is something that AI can help with, a marketer. So that's kind of the difference. It won't probably replace the creativity, but it will help you in making that marketing much more efficient and effective. What is missing in AI in that sense is really common sense, right? Common sense, it turns out, is not that common at all. For all the advances in chess and medical diagnosis or self-driving cars that AI systems have made, a simple question or a scenario is something that they cannot answer. As an example, I changed the food item here, but that's okay. The scenario and the question still work. A man went to a restaurant, ordered a dosa. He left with a big tip. Now, that is a scenario. Let's say that's presented to a human being as a question. What did he eat? I think most of people, human beings, anybody would basically say, well, he had a dosa, right? I mean, that's it. Notice that in the first sentence, it doesn't say anywhere that he actually ate a dosa, right? But that is an inferred behavior because he went to a restaurant. That means, who goes to a restaurant? A restaurant, you go to a restaurant because you want to eat something. You ordered a dosa further because you wanted to, maybe you like it and maybe you wanted to eat it, obviously. He left a big tip, meaning you finished your meal and you're about to leave. In between, obviously, he must have eaten it, right? And that's the obvious sort of conclusion, a commonsensical conclusion, that a human being would draw. And in fact, maybe you could even ask a 5-year-old this question and they would answer that in that manner. But a computer or basically an AI algorithm will get stumped, and it did get stumped when you ask this kind of a question. It doesn't know what to answer because it does not have all that commonsensical knowledge of, of what a human being has to infer all of the things that are not written in this sentence. And that, it turns out, is a tall order. Computers will get there. There are a lot of efforts in the world who are training people on commonsensical knowledge, training computers on commonsensical knowledge. But that is something that is not there today yet. And that's why it is hard for AI systems to replace human intuition, if you will, or human creativity, at least in the time being. Like we talked about, I think a lot of marketers and advertisers essentially will leverage data, and whoever can leverage that data better and will climb that mountain, whichever it is, they will achieve success. Basically, that's what we're saying. And if you don't use the data, then you'll be left behind, essentially, because the other companies will get ahead of you in the race. This is a call to basically saying that there is an American show called Mad Men, which is about 1960s people, advertising executives on Madison Avenue. The Mad comes from there. It's about advertising in the 1960s, and basically they were all men in that time period, which was a stereotypical thing. But what is changing is, from that advertising, what people need to become is, it's data driven, basically algorithms driven. That's what I meant by math. And of course, it could be women as well. Why not, right? So that is the crux of how advertising is kind of changing. It's becoming very mathematical. It's becoming very algorithm driven. There is elements of creativity, obviously, still there, quite a lot, but a lot of it is changing as well. It is becoming more a machine plus man kind of a system, a hybrid system. Now, I would say that this entire presentation was created totally by a bot, but no, I'm just kidding. We aren't there yet, but the day is not that far, right? And that's the thing. We will get there. I mean, I think we often underestimate that impact. And this is the last, pretty much the slide here. I really like this quote from a person, he's not there anymore, called Roy Amara. He said, we tend to overestimate the effect of a technology in the short run, right? So in the short run, there's a lot of hype. Everybody says, oh, AI will change this, or it will predict. There are also efforts on, by the way, predicting or detecting COVID and with AI and so on, but they've not been proven yet. But there's a lot of hype. So in the short run, you will think that AI will solve everything, but it's not the case. There's a lot of shortcomings still for AI systems. That said, I mean, it is making significant changes underlying, which will affect in a phenomenal change in few years, meaning in 10 years, 20 years, or even 30 years from now, you would see a significant change. So you will underestimate the effect of it in the long run. So it will change things in the long run. That long run could be 30 years, could be 50 years, but it will definitely change it. A great example of this is GPS satellites. GPS satellites, I believe, were launched in early 1970s or something like that. And initially, it was only the usage was military, right? I mean, it was all used by US military and so on. Later on, much later, until we got smartphones 30 years later, we did not, now the maps, we need GPS satellites because we use maps every day. And until smartphones came along, that impact of GPS satellites and the mapping and everything did not really come to mainstream. So if you ask somebody who launched GPS satellites in 1970s, even 10 years later in 1980s, they wouldn't even have known about those, or it didn't change their life in any way. But did it change the life in 30 years later? Of course, it has changed the life 30 years later. So I think AI will have similar kinds of effects in the long run. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaushal, for that wonderful, really wonderful presentation. People who have joined a little late, I would like to
Yeah,
reintroduce you to them, and then we will take the question answer sessions if you are willing to.
sure,
Um,
sure. Happy to.
Dear participants, our speaker Kaushal Kurapati is a group vice president of products within Oracle's marketing cloud division. He oversees a broad product portfolio that includes social listening, real time analytics, and testing and personalization products. We are very proud to know that Kaushal holds an MBA degree from New York STEM School of Business along with master's degree in computer science and mechanical engineer from University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and University of Delaware, respectively. He's originally an aerospace engineer from IIT Madras in India. So, from aerospace engineer to master's in computer science and then to become an MBA. He is full of knowledge and energy, as far as I know. And I would wish that you take few questions. They're
Sure.
typing in the chat box.
Okay.
You can take those if you are able to see the chat. They would be typing their questions there. You can answer. I'm going mute now.
Okay, let me see. Vamshi, I can't see
They said,
questions
what is
exactly.
the role of AI in
Okay.
COVID? They're asking, what is the
Ah, I
role of
see.
AI in COVID?
Yeah, I've seen, I was trying to, read it. This is a real-time situation that's evolving, obviously, right? And I think there's a lot of data that there will be no doubt some apps that will come out. I was even seeing even a news article even today that there are apps that are trying to take the COVID, take testing data, right? Basically, right? Testing data, contact tracing data, and so on, and trying to see who, are you at risk, essentially, right? I think contact tracing is one application of it a little bit, because it tries to say, okay, if such and such people, you've been to these kind of places, and there has been a lot of incidents of maybe people with previous conditions over there, then the chances of you having it is slightly higher, right? So it's not exact, but I don't think it should replace you going to a doctor or anything like that. I don't think it'll be so it'll just give you some kind of an indication, because even these models have to be evolving pretty rapidly, I think.
Kaushal, today we have participants from all over the country, from
Okay.
Salem to Gujarat, and I've got from Rajasthan. I see so many of them. We have nearly about 300 on YouTube watching you live, and then we
Okay.
have got 100 on the Zoom app. Seriously, it is a really very, very good presentation. And one more question goes out here.
Sure.
Is robotics is also a part of AI? That is one question
Yeah.
from one of our
Yeah.
participants.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, robotics is again a multidisciplinary field, right? It used to be mostly in the mechanical engineering side of things, where robots were just, they did replace just human mechanically in assembly lines and so on. But I think a lot more now intelligence is getting into robots, and I think there is a lot of future in that, and it's definitely a part of AI. And I'd see another question: AI can overcome human intelligence in the future. I guess some people would say yes. I have my personal doubts, like I said, I think creativity is an inspiration, an intuition is something that uniquely human. I don't think someone like a robot or a computer essentially could replace the intuition that let's say an Einstein had or a Ramanujan had. So I think that is far from it, I think, at least.
One more question, Kaushal.
Yeah.
How to remove barriers in AI using a simple technique? This is from Dr. Renuka Sagar.
Okay. Yeah, I think some parts of AI are really very become simple. I think in the sense that you can use simple algorithms and achieve a lot of a lot of good and a lot of positive impacts of it in various fields, right? So I think as barriers are getting removed in a way because access is there now through smartphones, data being cheap, and you can develop algorithms very much. You can spin up a server on Amazon Web Services or any other cloud services pretty much overnight or in a minute, and you can produce a pretty good performing algorithm. So I think systematically barriers are getting removed, and so the access is improving. Um, and I think the applications are important. I think for India, especially, I have friends who work in a lot of interesting fields and applying AI to agriculture in India and so on, who are doing fascinating things of crop yields and predicting uh, various things with respect to um, how you can help the local population. And I think that's important. Applying it to what makes sense in your local community and the local businesses.
Can you explain the connectivity between the AI and the neural networks? That is another question posted.
Sure, neural networks is one particular technique. There are many different techniques. AI is a broad term in that sense, right? So any system that learns from data over a period of time and becomes better is an AI system, you could say. Neural networks is just one way that a system learns. There are numerous other techniques that a system could use to learn.
How is machine learning different from AI? Is it different or is it the same? That is another
No, you
question
could use
posted.
synonymously. I mean, machine learning is just, again, a machine is basically learning
Yeah.
through over a period of time. So it's become fairly synonymous.
Yeah, ML evolved from AI.
Yeah, yeah.
I think, I mean, so many, yeah, another question, what is the role of deep learning in AI?
So
I
deep
think
learning has
before,
come. Yeah. I'm less, this is again a field that's rapidly evolving. I'm not as technical. I'm more on the business side these days, but
I
I
know.
know that deep learning is something. It's again a form of learning, right? It's neural networks, multiple layers, and it's come up in the past few years. It's been incredibly successful. I think it's involves systems that can learn by themselves, right? You show 1,000 pictures of a cat to a deep learning system, it starts to recognize that it's a cat even before you told it that it's a cat, right? So it's in that nature. Yeah.
Another question goes here, Kaushal. What role AI plays in big data analysis or analytics? It can be both.
Yeah, big data analytics is more looks at the past and sort of analyzes and patterns, right? So you can say that, hey, you can analyze weather patterns, and there could be that's analysis analytics too. It could be financial analysis, whatever it is, or it could be stock market, right? In AI, I mean, this is different in the sense it tries to be predictive. So in that sense, it tries to learn from that old system and then say this might happen or that might happen.
Another question goes here. What is the effect of AI on teaching and employment?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think teaching is something, again, I don't think it'll be replaced. So we don't want great teachers like Vamshi to be replaced for sure. So I don't think we are there. We don't have that risk at all. Right. But that said, I think, there are places where you can tailor a particular material by the pace at which someone is learning. So you can personalize learning to any individual, saying if a system observes that a kid is having problem in particular area of math, then maybe it can adjust the concepts accordingly or reteach them, so that it can help a teacher actually be more personalized attention. Especially these days, if you have 100 people in the class, you cannot give personalized attention, but maybe with the help of AI and a teacher there, maybe it can do that. I think it can be more of a great addition to a human being who's teaching.
One more question, Kaushal. If we
Yeah.
choose an AI as a research domain, which is the most advanced topics of research which could be helpful at application side? Yeah, and
Advanced
how
topics.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
everything.
how AI applications is used in our daily lives. Two different questions,
Two different.
Kaushal.
Yeah. Yeah, applications in daily life, like I said, you're already actually encountering many of them without whether you know it or not. Whenever you use YouTube, there is a recommender system that's behind it that you are being bombarded by the media through that, right? Um, you advanced topics of research, um, there are numerous applications, right? Any field you can pick. Like I talked about marketing and advertising, I'm pretty sure someone can give a whole seminar on AI in medicine, or AI in education, or AI in stock markets, or AI in any particular field, robotics itself, someone mentioned before, right? So you can apply it to, it's an all-purpose sort of tool that can be applied to various things, really. No one good thing or bad. It depends on what your interest is.
Another question, Kaushal. What is the role of AI in embedded systems?
Embedded systems, I don't know as much, but if I were to maybe guess, if you're talking about like IoTs and Internet of Things, or things of that nature, um, it could be that some of those kind of smaller devices could become more intelligent, or act more intelligently, and be more reactive based on some intelligence that is done in a more centralized place, and help an environment be more reactive, I suppose, potentially.
One more question, Kaushal. What is the role of cloud computing in AI?
So cloud is sort of different, right? I mean, cloud is the way you are doing computation. So you're not doing computation on the PC itself, for potentially, or you're doing the computation somewhere else in the cloud. AI is, I mean, you could do any computation in the cloud. You could be just doing a spreadsheet in the cloud, which is Google Drive, if you're using as an example. You're really using the cloud, because the spreadsheet is not on your computer, but it's in Google server somewhere. But you're not really doing AI at that point. But you could be writing an AI algorithm and running it on Google servers, or Amazon servers, or Oracle servers, or anybody else's. So those are two kind of orthogonal concepts.
Yeah, they're just flooding.
Sure.
The questions are flooding. And the next one goes here. What are the frames and scripts in AI? I mean, they're going more technical, maybe.
Yeah, I
If you,
perhaps I wouldn't be.
yeah, but maybe if you, yeah, you
Yeah,
can put off if you. I mean, because most of them are from management area. The technical ones would be little over the board. So I
yeah.
thought we will know. And is there any application of AI in civil engineering? This is posted by Sushant.
Civil engineering. Look, I think there could be. Again, well, a lot of fields are becoming interdisciplinary. So previously, environmental science used to be part of civil engineering, as an example, to an extent, right? Now
Yeah.
it's become its own branch to an extent. So if you take that view, civil engineering and environmental, which was there, climate change and environment studies have a lot of AI applications, because climate change is pretty concerning topic. It should be as well for the whole world again. And that is something that is, we need all the algorithmic power to understand what's going on in the world. And our Earth, I mean, world is a much more complex system. Climate is a far more complex system than what we think. So we do need applications of AI in there, I would say.
Yeah. I think, I mean, there are so many other, but they are little repetitive. The questions are repetitive.
Okay.
Can artificial intelligence replace humans?
Yeah, again, like we said, some areas, some parts of it, definitely. There will be some jobs that will get impacted. There's no doubt about it. But again, there will be many areas that won't be, or rather for a long period of time. So it'll take some time. Yeah.
One person called Karuna, she says, I don't have an idea about how to implement AI in my project. I want an answer. Please say. She's putting question marks. Yeah.
So you should try and define your project, I suppose, first, in the sense of what application you want to. So see, AI is a general purpose tool, right? I mean, it's more like a mathematics algorithm, right? I mean, it's an approach. It's like saying, I know differentiation or integration. Where do we apply? Um, Calculus or integrate? It's like calculus. So calculus is can be applicable to designing a rocket engine, or it could be applicable to stock markets. So it depends on what you want to apply it to.
Yeah, AI is such an area or a discipline which can be worked out on anything. They're
Right,
mentioning whether it can be used in pharmacy, civil engineer, hydrology. You
right,
mention it, you can use AI
exactly.
everywhere in the world.
That's right.
But I doubt whether they can replace humans, because we humans are developing these AI applications.
Exactly,
Isn't it
exactly.
fine? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I think
Yeah.
we almost come to the end of the session, uh,
Okay.
Kaushal. One
Yeah.
more personal question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
How do you
Sure.
feel about having 24 patents to yourself, and then plus you have registered or filed so far? That's a big, big achievement, what I feel. And you can throw some some kind of a light on that.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think it happened, obviously, not just myself, it was with a lot of colleagues as well, and through several companies I worked at. And I was fortunate to be able to, file some ideas. I think this is something that, I have had a lot of colleagues in India as well, through the companies I worked for over the years, where, the ideas have come from all over, and we've together worked on these, right? So, sometimes the simplest of ideas, the patent sometimes feels like a grand thing, but it could be a very simple thing, right? It's generally, whether you can think of something very unique and you might not think that it's patentable. As an example, one of the big things I was told early on in my career is, if you have any idea, I mean, you can throw a dart at a wall, you can start filing patents, right? In a sense that, example would be Amazon, which has this one-click ordering, right? I don't know if it's there in India, but it's there worldwide generally. That you have to store their credit card with them, and you can just click one button and it'll order, right? That's a business process patent actually. So there's no real technology innovation in it, but they got the patent for it in way back in 95 or 94, whenever it was, one of the first patents. And that's such a powerful patent because everybody on the internet later on wants to use it. So a patent is not just about, I would say, really the innovation. I mean, there is a lot of innovation in like pharmacology, right? You have a patent on a particular drug. Now, whoever comes up with a drug for COVID, they'll definitely file patents for it, for sure. Now, unless it's a previously existing medicine that already works or so on, but assuming it's a new thing, they will file. But there are also a lot of patents which are what you would think are, I would say, are called business process patents. So they're not innovation on the technology side, but they're more innovation on a new way of doing business or a new thing that you talked about. So you can really file a patent on a lot of things, it turns out, many, many different kinds of things. So when you're working deep in a particular area, I think, sometimes very small ideas also can be patentable. So it's just, and companies are after it too, right? Companies want patents so that it becomes an important thing for them as a currency. So yeah,
Yeah, right now it is more evident even in our educational institutions that we
correct.
need to file for the patents
That's right.
right now. So
That's right.
the children are young, and more of the participants are just started their lives
Yeah.
in their teaching. I thought you can just throw some light on that.
No,
That's the
absolutely.
reason I put this question.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. No, that's actually, thank you so much, Vamshi.
Thank you very much
It's a
to.
long time coming, and I really appreciate you taking the time and hosting it.
No, it is the other way around. You have given so much of time of yours in order to talk to us and give so much of deliberation on AI and the other aspects. And you've been so patient enough in order to take all the questions too. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much once again. Yeah. And then I thank all the participants to be here to make our webinar a great success. In a short while, we will be just going offline. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you, Vamshi. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Thank you, you too. Ooh.